ladies and gentlemen. My name is Hannan, and I'm Director of the Smith Institute. It's my great pleasure to welcome you here this evening. Our guest speaker is Dan Hannan, MEP. He really is somebody who needs no or extremely little introduction, because 2.5 million of us have already seen his devalued Prime Minister speech on YouTube. So let me just say he is one of the most intelligent, effective and conservative conservatives, and that means he won't get a job at all, of course. But nevertheless, we do need him out there saying lots of good things, and many of us will have read his book, which is called The Plan, which I'm furiously cribbing from at the moment. I write a book of my own, telling the next government what it needs to do. But he is one of the, I think, the greatest parliamentarians that we have on our side, and it's a very great pleasure to welcome him here.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Eamon has said everything that needs saying, so it remains for me only to wish you all a very Merry Christmas. But while I'm here, it's a great pleasure to be here. It's a particular pleasure to be here as a re-elected MEP. Since the last time I was here. We had an election in June to the European Parliament, and there is nothing like an election to remind politicians of some of the people that we represent. The highlight of this campaign was knocking on a door in Woking that was answered by a little boy who must have been about 6 years old. He was wearing a smoking jacket that was hanging loosely from his shoulders. In one hand, he was swirling a great balloon of brandy about the size of his little head. And in the other, smouldering, slowly ceilingwards, was what looked like a very expensive Cuban cigar. Well, as you do when you're canvassing, I leaned down and I said, "Are your parents at home?" And he said, "Does it effing look as good?" What a pleasure to be here at the ASI, because you know, you people are always right, and you're always way ahead of the curve. And this is what I want to talk about tonight. The way in which, although there may be no kudos and no rewards for being right too early in politics, you have the satisfaction of knowing that you articulate the instincts of an ancient and wise people. When the bailouts happened, Eamon and I were virtually alone on the day in opposing. Lots of people were wise after the event, but if you go back in Google and you look at who was writing on the day of the thing saying, "No, don't do this, it's going to be calamitous," there were very few of us. And a very senior member of my party pulled me to one side, because it happened during the party conference in Birmingham, and he said, "Look, Hannan, you are a lunatic. It's just you and Eamon Butler and Ron Paul opposing these bailouts. You know, the rest of them." Well, 3 weeks passed. The first opinion survey was conducted in the nation's leading quality daily newspaper, and I was delighted to be able to email this senior Conservative with a link saying it turned out to be me, Eamon Butler, Ron Paul, and 85% of the British electorate who oppose these bailouts. And this is the point I want to make. Right? People are much wiser than their politicians give them credit for. There's a lovely line from Burke's Reflections on the French Revolution where he makes this point. He says, "Because half a dozen grasshoppers, concealed under a fern, make the field ring with their importunate chink, while thousands of great cattle repose beneath the shade of the British oak and are silent, pray do not imagine that those who make all the noise are the only inhabitants of the field." And that, it seems to me, exactly describes our situation today. You think that our mistake has been, that our government has been bad in the money it's blown away on this? Wait until what happens next in the city. I spent this morning talking to some people in the square mile who are being alarmingly complacent about what is coming from Brussels. This shift in supervisory power from the City of London to new EU authorities is going to push London the way of Amsterdam or Bruges or Venice, a once dominant financial centre that is sidelined by more virile cities. Again, I would confidently put that issue to a referendum. Despite all this stuff about, oh, bankers' bonuses and we don't want to be standing up for the pinstripes, you know what? People would still rather that we take these decisions for ourselves. But going back to my conversation this morning, the feeling that kept coming back from the floor was, the thing is we can't stop this. You know, as long as we're in the EU, we've got no option but to go along with it. Of course, we'll try and modify it and ameliorate it, but we ultimately can't stop it. And I said, my friends, you are begging the question. The whole argument for joining the common market was that the loss of sovereignty would be offset by this great surge in prosperity. If, by your own reasoning, you now accept that the EU is making us poorer, what the devil are we doing there? If the European Union wants to go down this road towards more regulation and higher taxes and prices and incomes policies and all the rest of it, fine. The more opportunity for us to be as Taiwan to their red China. An offshore, deregulated, low-tax, successful enterprise haven. A role that we have, at the moment, ceded to the Swiss, who seem to be managing pretty well, scraping by some kind of half-life out there outside the European Union, with 214% of the GDP per head enjoyed by EU citizens. When we get these powers back, we should then become not just a freer and a more prosperous country, but a more democratic country. I don't want to repatriate powers from Brussels and then leave them festering in Whitehall. I want to push them downwards and outwards to local councils, or better yet, to individual citizens. There is a whole agenda in this book. Now, in an Ayn Rand moment in front of this audience, I'm happy to say it is on sale. I don't give it away, because you will depreciate that which is free. For £10, you can have a side copy of the plan, and here you can read an exciting agenda about how we're going to decentralise and diffuse decision-making, and have elected sheriffs, and break the state monopolies in healthcare and education, and have lots and lots of local referendums, and have self-financing local councils, and have initiative and referendum procedures. Brilliant. But, my friends, none of that is possible. None of it is possible, as long as 84% of all the legislation in the United Kingdom is being passed in Brussels by people that we don't vote for. I'm going to repeat that because you don't look shocked enough. 84% of all the laws in this country are being passed by European commissioners, not just that we didn't vote for, but that nobody voted for. In fact, it's worse than that. Not only are they undemocratic, uniquely in the history of Western political thought, we have contrived to come up with an organisation that is anti-democratic, in the sense that you generally have to have lost an election before you vote. So it's only when, like Chris Patten or Neil Kinnock or Peter Mandelson, it's only when you've been expressly rejected by your voters that you are invited to come and legislate for them anyway. If you think I'm being unfair, consider the career of that lifelong Pangocrat Baroness Ashton of Holland, who has risen to the second position in the EU without ever once taking the trouble to present herself to her fellow countrymen and ask for their mandate in the ballot box. My friends, observing these things does not make us anti-Europe. It makes us pro-democracy. And I want to see a United Kingdom in which power is taken away from the remote elites and diffused among the voters. And I will always, I finished where I started, I will always be confident to repose my confidence, my trust in the sublime instincts of an ancient people. I'm going to close with some words by G.K. Chesterton, who looked forward with eerie aptness to our present subordination before the EU. Think of how they apply today. They've given us into the hands of new unhappy lords, lords without anger or honour who dare not carry their swords. They fight by shuffling papers. They have bright dead alien eyes. They look on our labour and laughter as a tired man looks on flies, and the load of their loveless pity is worse than the ancient wrongs. Their doors are shut in the evenings, and they know no songs. We hear men speaking for us, of new laws, strong and sweet, yet is there no man speaketh as we speak in the street. Smile at us, pay us, pass us, but do not quite forget, for we are the people of England, and we have not spoken yet.
Thank you very much, Dan. Usual bravado style. It's been an exceptionally good year for us at the Elspeth Institute. There's nothing like a good crisis as far as we're concerned. This is very much in demand. It's been a very good year, and I think you brought it to a conclusion with great authority and verve and style. Thank you very much indeed for that. I do appreciate it. And by way of token, we have in fact two little presents for you. One is an Adam Smith tie, and the other is a bottle of Nanny State beer. It's 1.1%. If I were you, I would wrap yourself up in cotton wool before you drink it.